talk about today. We're going to talk about this concept of chasing a lion. Another way to say it is to chase a dream. And here's what I know, that all of us have dreams. Some of us might know exactly what your dream is. Some of them are kind of unspoken dreams. But I really believe that each and every one of us has some dreams that we need to start chasing. I know personally I have some dreams. Some of them are just real simple, very earthly, if you want to put it in that context. And what I mean by that is I have dreams of playing golf in all 50 states. I have dreams of visiting some different places around the world. Those are dreams, but I believe even inside of those dreams, God can use those dreams to accomplish more than I would have ever imagined. I believe that, I've got some dreams that are more spiritual in nature, between planting of some churches and preaching of the gospel in some certain places around the world. And my guess is that you have some as well. I mean, what are those dreams? Maybe what you're going to do as we dig into this series over the next 4 weeks is maybe the best thing for you to do this morning is maybe ignore the rest of the message that I have to say. Maybe what you're going to do this morning is over the next 25 minutes while I'm talking, you're just going to start writing out your dreams. And that might be the very best thing you can do today, is for you to just start uncovering those things that God is putting in your heart. Because I believe that many of the times, the things that God is putting on your heart, that he's putting in your head, are things that he wants you to accomplish for him. All right? That might be a dream of climbing a mountain. It might be a dream of doing music. It might be a dream of going to college. It might be a dream for your marriage. Maybe you're single and you've got a dream of a godly man or a godly woman that you're hoping to meet. What would happen if you just started writing that down? Like rather than, Lord, one day I'd like to get married, what would happen if you started writing out your dream of, God, I'm praying for a godly person. I'm praying that they will have this career, that they will look like this, and that they will have this upon their heart. I mean, maybe get real specific with him and really start chasing that dream of saying, God, this is what I'm hoping for. Maybe your dream is you are married, but maybe your marriage isn't going the direction you want it to go right now. And maybe what you've been dreaming is, man, I dream of my marriage going to a whole nother level. I dream of my marriage getting to the place that on the day we said I do, I wanted to get to that place that's where we thought it would be. And maybe it seems like a pipe dream, but here's what I want you to catch. With whatever dream you're chasing, God can do far more with it than you can. And you might think my marriage is dead, or you might think my marriage has no hope, or you might think that, man, I dream of the day that my kids my adult children will end that addiction that they've been living in. It's a huge dream, but it's a dream that God can accomplish. Maybe your dream is that you've got an addiction, and that you're like, man, I just want to throw it down finally. I just want to get past it. Make sure we catch this with all these dreams, all right? God can do more. Look at what it says, Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20. It says, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more, all right? So he can do more than all we ask or imagine. Now I want you to think about that word imagine. I want you to just throw that word dream in on that. Like, let's read this scripture again. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or dream. God can do more with your dreams than you can do on your own, according to his power that is at work within us. According to his power that's at work within us. God can do amazing things with the dream that you've been holding in the back of your head. Now, let's be honest, there's some dreams that are very sinful in nature. All right, that's not the kind of dream I'm talking about. But the kind of dream that you know that God could use, that God could take, and he could do amazing things with it, and then you need to turn that dream over to him. And right now you might be thinking, well, I don't even know what that dream is, so start writing them out. Start writing them out and start saying, God, I want you to do more with this dream than I can do on my own. That's what this series is all about. It's this idea of chasing a lion. And that idea of chasing a lion, it comes straight out of 2 Samuel chapter 23. If you have a Bible, you can go ahead and turn there. We're gonna look at 2 Samuel 23 all month, all right? We're gonna spend 4 weeks dealing with just a couple different verses. So if you use a paper Bible, go ahead and mark it, because every Sunday we're gonna be talking from there. If you use an electronic Bible, go ahead and bookmark it, or just kind of know that that's where we're gonna be going each week. But before I get into it, I kind of got to give you the backstory a little bit, all right? The backstory of 2 Samuel 23 is 2 Samuel is a book that's written all about a guy named David, all right? David was what many would consider like the best king that Israel had, all right? He was a guy that did some amazing things, and all of 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel talks about the things that he did. And you'll see things that he made some mistakes. He was a sinful dude. He did some things that were wrong, that broke his heart and broke the heart of God. But at the same time, we also see in those scriptures that it's recorded that David was a man after God's own heart as well. He was a guy that was pursuing God, even though he made mistakes. And I think for many of us in this room, we would all admit, yeah, I've made some mistakes. I've done some things that I shouldn't have done. I've messed up. But know this, God can still use you to do amazing things. And that's what he did with David. So I want us to look at this a little bit. And what we're going to find in chapter 23 is we're going to see how it talks about kind of David's mighty men. That's one way this chapter has been called before. Other people call it David's kind of band of brothers. David's kind of dudes that were in his life. They were the guys that anytime David was rushing into battle, he was looking back going, I need to make sure I have some of these guys with me. And the things that we're going to see in these guys are things that I really believe that all of us will say, yep, I want to have that in my life. But especially if you're a dude. If you're a dude that's here, you're going to look at these men and go, dude, I want to be like that, all right? And when I start reading the scripture, you'll understand what I'm saying. It says this, 2 Samuel chapter 23, verse 20. It says, there was also Benaiah, son of, however you want to say that word, that's fine. We'll call it Jehoiada, something like that. Anyway, he was a valiant warrior, all right? I like that at the beginning. I like to know that this guy named Benaiah was a warrior. I'm like, all right, that sounds cool. From Kabzeel. He did many heroic deeds. Now, guys, one of those things, I don't know if I'll ever get written about in a book, and definitely not the Bible, you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how people will refer to me when I'm dead and gone, but if they said, man, he did a lot of heroic deeds, like that makes me today go, oh yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's something all of us go, we dream of being that hero, being that guy who can do that. So Benaiah did many heroic deeds. One of them, which included killing 2 champions of Moab. All right? So 2 prize fighters, he whooped them both. I don't know if it's at the same time, at different times, we don't really know. But we do know that he defeated these 2 champion Moabs. This next verse is one that is what the whole theme is really built around. It says this. Another time, on a snowy day, he chased a lion down into a pit and killed it. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. See, I think too many times we just read and go, okay, yeah. Another time, just like it's any other day, he chased a lion down into a pit and killed it. Now, if you're like me, most of us, when we see a lion, we're not chasing it, right? You know what I mean? Like most of us, when we see a lion, like we're trying to run away and we're basically saying, if somebody's with me, as long as I run faster than that person with me, I'm okay, right? Well, that's not how Benaiah worked. Benaiah said, no, I'm going to chase a lion down into a pit and kill it. All right, another thing it says about him. It says, once, armed with only a club, he killed an imposing Egyptian warrior who was armed with a spear. Benaiah wrenched the spear from the Egyptian's hand and killed him with it. Now, I want you to picture that, all right? You got this guy named Benaiah with a club. You got this Egyptian warrior with a spear. What you might not know is it says this, if you go and study the same story in the book of 1 Chronicles, it says the Egyptian guy was 7.5 feet tall. That's big. My guess is Benaiah was probably about 5'7", 5'8", because that's like perfect height of a man. Yeah, you know it. Anyway, some of you men out there are like, thank you. But anyway, so you gotta imagine Benaiah with a club, this Egyptian warrior, 7.5 feet tall with a spear. Again, you would think, okay, I'm a little outnumbered here. This isn't gonna work. But he goes, nope, I just need to take that guy's spear and then I'll kill him with it. What makes a guy like this say, I can kill an Egyptian with his own spear? What makes a guy like this say, I'll chase a lion into a pit and kill it? My only guess is that he had a dream, and because of his dream, he said, well, I'll just enact some heroic deeds. And I don't know, okay, get total speculation here. I don't know if this is because a lion was trying to kill his family and he's like, I gotta go protect him. I don't know if this Egyptian warrior was a day on the battlefield and that's who came up against, so he said, well, somebody's gotta take him out, so I'll take him out. I don't know if it was a snowy day, they were out of meat and he's like, dude, we gotta eat, so I'm gonna go kill this lion because I'm hungry. We really don't know. What I do know is that as he did all these things, I think he did them as a reflection of the leader he had in his life. Because what you gotta make sure you understand about Benaiah is he was the bodyguard for King David. He was the leader of the bodyguards. He was the guy who was in charge of keeping King David safe. So he was the guy who said, I'm a disciple of his, I'm a follower of his, I'm gonna lead my life the way he is leading his life. And he would be able to look at David and see a guy who battled many of the same battles that we see Benaiah fought. Because see, when you look back at King David, there's a story about him. A story about him when he was a little guy, when he was just a young shepherd boy. A story about how a time that his dad said, hey, David, I need you to take some food to your brothers. They're out fighting on Israel's behalf. So take some food to them to replenish them. So David went to the battle lines of where his brothers were and where the Israelites were. And the Israelites were on one hill, and they were face to face with a group called the Philistines who were on another hill. And every day, the Philistines had a giant of a champion. His name was Goliath. Maybe you have no church background at all. Maybe you've never been to church. Maybe this is your first time. But you've probably even heard the story of David and Goliath. Maybe if you watch sports, you'll see it referenced a lot of times in sporting competitions. Well, it comes out of this story. You see, what would happen is this guy named Goliath, this champion for the Philistines, he would come down into the valley every day and he would challenge the Israelites. He'd say, one of you come fight me. One of you who say that you've got a God on your side, come fight me. And if you beat me, all of the Philistines will be your slaves. But if I beat you, then you guys, the Israelites, will have to be the slaves of the Philistines. And every day he would come down in the valley and he would challenge the people. And every day when this would happen, the Israelites would run in fear. They would go and shudder because of how big this guy was. Well, David came on the scene and he's like, man, what's going on? Like he looked at his brothers, he's like, hey, why doesn't somebody go fight this guy? Why doesn't somebody from Israel step up and take care of this? And his brothers are like, shut up, dude, this isn't any of your business. Well, King Saul heard what was going on with David, so he called for David. He said, David, what's going on? He goes, man, somebody needs to take this guy out. He's making fun of the living God, and we can't stand for that. Somebody needs to bow up and take care of him. And Saul's like, well, nobody will do it. And David said, well, I will. Remember, he's a little shepherd boy at this point in his life. King Saul says, somebody needs to, and David says, well, I will. And Saul's like, dude, you 5 foot nothing. He's probably 5'5". How are you gonna go and battle this Goliath of a dude? I mean, what do you have to do this? And I love what David says. He says, you know what, when I was tending to my flock, when I was protecting my sheep, a lion came into our area and took one of my sheep. So I chased the lion down and I beat it with a club. And if that lion will turn on me, then I grab that lion by the head and I rip its head off. Benaiah, why are you chasing a lion into a pit on a snowy day? Well, because I saw my leader do it and I heard the stories of my leader doing it. And if my leader, who had God on his side, was able to defeat a lion, well, then I have God on my side and I serve the same God, so I guess I can defeat a lion as well. Hey, Benaiah, why would you battle a 7.5-foot tall Egyptian? Well, I heard the stories of my leader, David, who went against a 9-foot Goliath, and God was on his side and God brought a victory in him, so God can bring a victory in me. I chase lions today because I'm following the dreams of the guy in front of me who chased lions back then. And here's the reality. If you're willing to chase a lion, if you're willing to chase a dream that God has put on your heart, then it will cause you to enact some heroic deeds, because you'll have to do some things you've never done before. But the beauty is you can look to the past and you can see the way God showed up for David and the way God showed up for Benaiah and the way God showed up for all those other characters in the Bible and people of today who you've heard testimony from. If God is there for them, then God can be there for you as well. So if you're gonna enact some heroic deeds, when you grab opportunity by the mane, you gotta grab a hold of that opportunity by the mane. Again, think of Benaiah here. It's a snowy day. He sees a chance to kill this lion. Again, I don't know what reason. I don't know if it was attacking. I don't know if it was for protection reasons. I don't know if it was for food reasons, but he saw an opportunity and said, right now, I've got to take advantage of this. So he jumped into that pit, which I love that visual anyway. It wasn't like he was in a pit and a lion showed up. It wasn't like all of a sudden he stumbled into the pit and the lion jumped in. No, the story makes it seem like the lion jumped in and Benaiah chased him into it. And he grabbed opportunity, the same way David grabbed opportunity that day with Goliath. You got to remember, David was there, and that when David was there, he wasn't there to fight a battle. David was there to deliver bread. But in the midst of delivering bread, he saw an opportunity to glorify God. He saw an opportunity to grab that lion by the mane and do what God was calling him to do. And my guess is it was a little scary. My guess is it was a little scary. But I will tell you this about lion chasers. Lion chasers are more afraid of missed opportunities than they are of mistakes and failures. Let that sink in for a second. A true lion chaser will be more afraid of a missed opportunity than he is of a mistake or a failure. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna have some failures. Guys, I can tell you in my life, my biggest regrets are the opportunities I missed. So anytime I look at an opportunity, I am more afraid of missing that opportunity that God is ordaining than I am of making a mistake in the midst of it. I want you to know that this is reality for our church right now as we sit right here today. This week we had some opportunities come in front of us as a church. Some opportunities we've been dreaming about and thinking about and going, yeah, maybe this will happen. Opportunities came square in our face this week. As you know, we've talked about the idea of planting a campus at J. Reuben Detention Center. And the sheriff and the chaplain there, they'd come to us in the past and they said, hey, we want to do this. Can you start seeing if you can get some people who would be willing to do it? Do you have the technology to do it? And can we get it going? I was like, yeah, man, let's chase that lion with you, you know? Well, then all of a sudden this week, the chaplain, Eddie, he stopped by the coffee bar. And me and him started talking, and he was all jacked up. I mean, he was as hyper as could be, as excited as he could be. And he's like, all right, dude, we're ready. He's like, how about we start this month? Like, how about we start in from today? How about we start 21 days from today? Like, let's start this thing in June. Can you be up and ready by then? Can you guys? And I'm like, oh, wow, that's quick. like this is for real. You know what I mean? But in that quick moment, we're like, well, absolutely we can. We have 30-some people who have raised their hand, who have signed on the dotted line, who have said, send me to jail, all right? That's what they've said. They said, I'm willing to go to jail to tell somebody about Jesus, train me up, do what you need to do so that I can go do that. Those 30 people, I know, and some of you are in here right now, I know that you have been given the opportunity to go tell somebody about Jesus, and in 21 days, you're gonna be at J. Reuben opening up a campus at 2 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. Now, guys, that's exciting. Well, at least it's exciting to me. But you know what I'm saying? That's a scary opportunity at the same time. To go, okay, yeah, we got to make sure everybody's trained up and ready to go in 21 days. But I'll be honest, I'm more afraid of missing the opportunity to tell somebody about Jesus than I am about the opportunity of what it's going to take to make sure we're ready in 21 days. Another thing happened this week. We'd been talking to Jake from Vegas, who you saw a video from. And, you know, we've talked to Jake. We've brainstormed this. We've talked as elders. We've talked as staff. We've talked about it as a church. But it's always been one of those things, yeah, let's plant a rock campus in Vegas. And we've always been thinking, yeah, that's down the road just a little while. But we knew today we wanted to introduce him to you. And we're like, yeah, that'll be cool, you know. And then when we got the video on like Wednesday or so, or early last week, whenever it came in, that he had shot to kind of be our host, I remember I sat there and I watched it. And when I watched it, I was like, oh, this is for real. Like this is no turning back. I mean, we are letting Jake introduce himself to well over 1,500 people this weekend, saying that he's on staff at The Rock to plant a church in Las Vegas. And when I start thinking about that, I almost had to pinch myself because I'm going, man, this is for real. And it's a risk. Let's just be honest. You know, planting a campus on the other side of America, there's some risk involved there. But guys, I'll be honest. I'm glad you're excited about it. I'll be honest. I'm a little afraid of that, but I'm more afraid of missing the opportunity to save somebody's life. More afraid of missing the opportunity to see some people just come to know who Jesus is in the midst of a sin city for them to find grace. And then something else happened this week. It's exciting, but I wasn't ready for it. You know, we've been talking about starting a campus at Coastal, and we've been looking at facilities. We've been looking at things on the campus. We've been trying to get things put together so that we could get that launch possibly in January of next year. Well, we had a chance to visit a facility a couple weeks ago. We went back into it this week, and when we were done, it was determined, yeah, this is where we need to go. So we have signed a letter of intent in an area right across the street from Coastal Carolina, right across the street from Tech. And it's about 4,500 square feet. It's plenty of space for us to do a little bit of kids ministry, for us to open up a franchise at C3 Coffee Bar, and for us to do worship in there. All right, well, it is exciting to know that there's a campus between those two universities, 15,000 students, over 50 nationalities, all right, over 50 different countries. We have an opportunity as a church to invest in 15,000 people, to invest in 50 different countries, to who knows what will happen. Who knows what will happen over the next several years with that campus? Who knows how that will grow, and then we have to go into a bigger facility? Who knows what God can do? I don't know. All I know is God will do far more than we can possibly imagine. Whatever we think, God is going to do far more than that. And I'll be honest, it might be a little scary, but I'm much more afraid of the missed opportunity. And God's putting those opportunities right in front of not just us as a church, but as you as an individual. Because here's what I know. 30 of you have already said, I'll go and help at the jail campus. 30 of you have already signed up. I'm sure others of you will. My guess is there's going to be somebody here today who over the next year, you're going to be like, we need to move to Vegas. I don't know who it is, but my guess is there's somebody who says, we need to move to Vegas. We need to go. We need to go out there and we need to get a job and we need to start doing ministry because we need to help plant that church. And this is what I also know, that my prayer is that 100 of us, or 100 of you would say, you know what? I'm gonna make the Coastal campus my campus. There's a lot of you young adults and college students who come here on Sunday morning, and I love it that you're here, but I wanna see 100 people from this campus. And those are those of you who work down that direction. Some of you live that direction. Some of you go to school that direction. I wanna see 100 of you that say, you know what? We're gonna make that our campus. And that's where we're gonna worship from. That's where we're gonna serve at. That's where we're gonna participate because we wanna see people come to Christ. And over the next couple months, because here's the crazy thing about Coastal, we're not waiting till January. We have a facility now. It is very little prep that we're gonna have to do to retrofit it. So our plan is on October 1st of this year, 4 months from now, opening up that campus. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I said this, I don't care who you are, but that'll make you pucker, if you know what I mean. Right? Like that'll scare you a little bit. But I'm more afraid of a missed opportunity than we are a failure. And here's what I know. God will do far more than we can ever ask or imagine if we're willing to grab opportunity by the mane. God will do far more because here, think of this for a second. A year ago, we were worshiping as one church in a high school auditorium. Less than a year ago, we were still at the high school. And in that amount of time, we've been able to ramp up our online campus to make it where it's really doing some incredible things and to ministering to people all over America and even some people around the world. Since that time, we've been able to open up to the C3 Coffee Bar where there'll be about 50 different people worshiping from the coffee bar this morning. I know there's some of you right there worshiping right now. I'm so glad you guys are tuned in with us at the coffee bar. Since then, we will then open up the jail in 3 weeks from now. And then 4 months from now, the campus at Coastal. And then a year from now, we'll be opening up in Vegas. Think about that. A year ago, really one church in one location. And within the next 10, 12 months, we'll have about 5 or 6 campuses, depending on how you look at our online campus. Did any of us dream that? No. You know what I mean? Like, that wasn't like, if you remember, I stood in front of you the day we opened. I said, I don't know what's going to happen next, but God will show us. And when God shows you, grab opportunity by the mane and make the most of every opportunity he gives you. Well, how do you do that? You got to run to the roar. The way you do that is you run to the roar. Benaiah ran to the roar. David ran to the roar. Like a firefighter runs into flames or a police officer runs into a problem. You've got to run to the roar. How do you do it? Let me just tell you this real quick. First thing you do is pursue those God-given passions. The things that God is putting on your heart, pursue them. And that might mean he put on your heart to make money. Pursue it. He might have put on your heart to make music. Pursue it. He might have put on your heart to get married. Pursue it. Or to deepen your marriage. Pursue it. He might have put on your heart to start a new business. Pursue it. He might have put on your heart to minister to kids or to provide beds for abandoned or orphan kids. He might have put on your heart to help out at Coastal or the jail or Vegas or Africa or Dominican or some other place around the world. I don't know what all God's putting on your heart, but if he's putting something on your heart, pursue it. And as you pursue it, set God-sized goals. Here's what I know. If all you do is dream and you never put a goal with it, then really it's a pipe dream. But if you'll put a goal in front of you and then set a goal to achieve it, and I'm talking God-sized goals, goals that are so big that they scare you and you know you're doomed to fail without the intervention of God. And when you set a goal like that, you know what it's going to cause you to do? It's going to cause you to pray God-sized prayers. You're not going to say itty-bitty prayers. You're going to start challenging God with your prayers. You know what I mean by that? Like, Dad, you understand? Like, you remember those times your kids say, hey, Dad, I bet you can't do this? And you're like, if you knew how simple that really was, you wouldn't be saying it. But you know what I mean? You play along with them like, oh, this is so difficult, whatever it might be. You know what I mean? Like your kid is like, Dad, you can't. And you're like, I can. But then something happens. Your kid gets older, and then they challenge you a different way. And when they challenge you a different way, you're like, you kind of got to bow up, you know what I mean? You got to be like, oh yeah, you want to challenge me there? Oh, I'll get you. I remember a time that my two sons, Clay and Tate, they were arguing about who was fastest. And then they looked at me because I was kind of chiming in. They looked at me and they said, oh, you know, man, you don't even need to be a part of it. I was like, I still whoop you all. I still outrun you all. And Krista thought it would be funny. So she goes, well, yeah, why don't you guys race? And I was like, lady, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't need that. But I was like, all right, I've been challenged. So I stepped up and we went outside and she said go, or one of the daughters did. Somebody said go, and we raced and I whooped them. I smoked them. Because you don't challenge your papa. Now, I'm not going to tell you how many years ago that was. I will say since then, Tate's gotten a little quicker, a little older. And now I just pull the Seinfeld card. If you're a Seinfeld fan, I just say, I choose not to run. What would happen if you tried to challenge God? Like Moses, who said, God, part the water so we can walk across. Like Joshua, who said, God, make the sun stand still so we can win this battle. Like Elijah, who said, God, send the fire down on this sacrifice and prove to everyone that you are God. Like Peter did when he took a step and walked on water. What would happen if you'd start to challenge God that way? As big as those are, you know what God says? No problem. Because he's that kind of a God. Because you can pray the biggest prayer and God has the utmost power to accomplish it and far exceed it. So probably if you really want to know what does it mean to pray a God-sized prayer, it means to pray a prayer that looks like this. Make my dream to be used to fulfill your dreams. You want a God-sized prayer? That's really the God-sized prayer. God, take the dreams that are on my heart and make them your heart. Because what I want to dream is I want to dream your dream and I want to be used to accomplish your dream. And the only way to do that is then to run to the roar. You see, that prayer is the exact prayer Jesus prayed. Jesus knelt down in a garden and he prayed, God, if it is possible, take this cup from me. Like, God, here's my dream is not to go to the cross. God, if it is possible, take that away from me. But he finished that prayer by saying, but God, make my dream to be used to fulfill your dream. God, not my will be done, but your will be done. God, make my dream to be used to fulfill your dream. So Jesus got up at that moment and he ran to the roar of the mob. And then from there, he ran to the roar of his accusers. And from there, he ran to the roar of the crowd who yelled, crucify. From there, he ran to the roar of the soldiers who beat him. From there, he ran to the roar of the cross as he stuck it on his shoulder and as he hung there. And then he ran to the roar when he went down into a dark pit on a dark, dark, dark day. He went down into that pit and he started grabbing a hold of the mane of Satan and wrestling with Satan. And for 3 days, he fought Satan. But on the third day, he roared back. He roared back. And he came out of the pit because he said, God, make my prayer to be used to fulfill your dreams. And that's a prayer you can pray this morning. It's a prayer that I pray that all of us will pray. God, make my dream to be used to fulfill your dreams. If you would, do me a favor, let's go ahead and stand up. And we're gonna move into a time of our service where you can spend some time praying. Guys, I say it all the time, this is the most important time of our service. Because this is a time that you really get to wrestle with the things that God is helping you discover. And whether that's you coming up front and taking communion and spending some time praying with him there, whether it's you going to the connect corner or the prayer corner and praying with somebody. And right now is an opportunity for you to say a prayer to God. And listen, the prayer to God, when you pray for him to maybe save your life, because maybe that's the prayer you need to pray this morning, I want you to know that will not challenge God. If you sit there and think, man, I'm messed up, I got a bunch of junk in my life, and you say that God wants to use me to fulfill his dreams, but you don't know my past, you don't know all my problems, listen, you can go to God and you can say, God, forgive me, and it will not challenge him. It's an easy prayer for him to forgive. It's an easy prayer for him to accept. It's an easy prayer for him to set you free. The challenging prayer is you praying it. And whether that's you praying for God to set you free, or whether that's you praying for God to set you free to dream, or whether that's God to use you to fulfill his. That's a challenging prayer, but it challenges you, not him. But once you say it, know this, he will do far more than you're ever even thinking. I don't know what dreams are on your heart, but I pray over the next several weeks, you'll start pursuing them. I want you to pray with me and we'll move into this time of response. Jesus, I thank you that we're gathered and we're here. And I pray right now that you will just help us to say the type of prayer we need to say to you, whether that's a prayer of surrender or whether that's a prayer to be used. God, help us to run to the roar the way you did. In your name, amen. Let's respond.